This video is part 1 of the tutorial for Grab the Grapes, a game in which there's a small object on the screen, the object is moving, and the user tries to tap the object to score points. In this part, part 1, you'll start creating the app by creating the object and then making it give 1 point every time it is touched. To make this game, you'll need a small picture of some kind to be the object that the user touches. I'm going to use a small bunch of grapes. You can do that too, or you can find or make your own small picture. It's up to you. When you have that picture, you are ready to start making your app. First, start a new project and give it a name that will help you remember what kind of project it is. I'm going to call mine Grab the Grapes. But if you are trying to grab a different kind of object, maybe you should name yours something else. Remember, use underscore or smush all your words together, no spaces. Then click OK. Now we're ready to start adding components or pieces to our app. You might be thinking, okay, I need a component that I can put a picture on and then make it do something when it's touched. That sounds like a button. And you are sort of right. The button can do those things, but it is very hard to make a button move. So for this game, we will use a new component, a new kind of object that can show a picture and do something when it is touched. We're going to use a drawing and animation component called an image sprite. The image sprite will be the small object, the grapes, and it will move around on a component called a canvas. Start by grabbing a canvas and setting it on your screen. Now you can see there are canvas properties you can change. Two that you definitely want to change are the height and the width, so that the canvas can take up most of the screen. Change the height to about 85%. A number between 80 and 90 is probably a good choice. Why not 100 to fill the whole screen? We don't want the canvas to fill the whole screen. There needs to be at least a little bit of space to show your score. But for width, we can take up the whole screen this way. Type 100% for the width. Now your canvas takes up most of the screen. If you want to, you can set a background color for the canvas, or even a background image. For example, you could put a picture of a grocery store that the grapes move around on. I will stick with just a color, but you can do an image if you want to. Now we need to add an image sprite to be the grapes. Grab image sprite and drag it onto the screen. Set it somewhere on the canvas, and you'll probably notice that it's easier to move around than the button was. You'll also see that the image sprite has a lot of different properties. For right now, don't worry about any of those except for picture. Find picture, click none, and then upload your small object picture, just like you did when you put a picture of a cat on a button. It should be nice and small. Now we have our canvas, the space where we play, and we have our image sprite, the object that we can tap. There's one other thing that we need in the designer side, and that is a way to show your score. Your score will just be text. It will be numbers. Which component just shows text? Do you remember? It's a label. Look under User Interface for the component called Label. Grab one, and then decide if you want to put it above the canvas or below the canvas. It is your app and your choice. I will put mine below for now. Then use the label's properties to make it look however you want. You can set a background color for the label, and then change the text color if you want to. The one that says font size controls how big the letters are. I will make mine much larger. One thing you definitely want to change is the text. You don't want that label to say text for label 1. You want it to say 0, because that's what your score will be when the game first starts. Now, we have a canvas, we have an image sprite, and we have a label to show the score. It's time to work on making this app work. First, though, let's make sure we understand the algorithm. This is the algorithm, the steps that your app will use in human language. The first thing it will do is create a variable named score and set it to 0. Remember, a variable is a way for the computer to store information. After that, there are some more steps. When the grapes are touched, it should add 1 to your score, and then make that score label that you just made show the new score. Take a second to make sure that this makes sense to you. It is a little bit confusing at first to think about a variable and a label that shows the value of that variable. Ask a teacher or a neighbor questions if you are confused. When you think you understand, then you are ready to start coding. Let's switch to blocks. The first thing we need to do is to create that variable named score and set it to 0. We'll click Variables, then the first block. It says Initialize Global Name to. That's a lot of words. Try to remember that this just means make a variable. Erase the word name and type score instead. Now this block says make a variable named score and set it to something. We need to tell the computer what the value of score should be. Your score should probably be 0 when the game first starts. To find the 0 block, click Math, then grab the first block you see. Now it says, create a variable named score and set it to 0. That's a good place to start. Now we'll work on the next part. When the grapes are touched, add 1 to your score, then make the label on the screen show the new score. How do we turn that into code? Well, let's start with when the grapes are tapped. Since we're trying to say something about the grapes, we'll click on Image Sprite, because that is what the grapes are. The image sprite has a lot of gold blocks. We're looking for the last one that says when the image sprite is touched. It looks a lot like when the button is clicked. The things that we want it to do when it is touched go right in here. We want to first add 1 to your score, and then make the label show the new score. But how do we say add 1 to your score? There's not a single easy block for that. What we'll actually say is set the score to be whatever it is now plus 1. If that sounds a little confusing, just try it with me. This one makes more sense when you see the blocks. First, you'll click Variables to say Set the Score. Find this third block that says Set, and choose Score from the list of choices. We're going to set the score to be whatever the score is now plus 1. But we'll grab the plus block first. Click Math, then this block that shows a plus sign, and snap it here. You can see there's room for 2 blocks inside this block. In the first spot, we'll put in the block that says get the current score, and in the second spot, we'll put in a number. Find the block that says Get Score by clicking Variables, then this one that says Get. Drop that in the first spot, and choose Score from the list of choices. Then, find another number block, like you found 0 before, by clicking Math, then the first choice. But this time, change it to the number 1. Now, let's review what this says. It's telling the device to set the score to be whatever the score is right now, plus 1. This is how we say add 1 to your score. If that's still a little bit confusing, take a closer look at it, then ask a neighbor or a teacher for help. Now, if we tested this app right now, you would not see your score go up. Why not? Well, it's because this code changes the score variable. And a variable is just a space in the device's memory. It's not something you can see. That's why we made a label to show the score. But it won't happen automatically. We need to add more code to tell the device that the label should change its text to show the score. Here's how to do that. We're trying to set the text on the label. So we'll click the label, and then find the block that says Set Label 1 Text. Make sure that that goes under the code you just made. Set the label's text to the score. Grab that Get Score block just like you did before by clicking Variables, then Get, then choosing Score from the list. Now the app is ready to test. Now it has a way to make a variable called score and set it to 0 when it starts. Then, when the image sprite is touched, it will make your score go up by 1, then change the label to show that new score. So when you test it, you should see your score start out at 0 and then go up by 1 every time you touch the grapes. If it works, then great, you are ready to go on to part 2. If it doesn't work, if you cannot tap the grapes and see yourself get 1 point, then go back and check your code very carefully.